Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This evening we are going to talk about the climate change, which is a challenge not only for the world but particularly for Pakistan. That Pakistan has been facing a lot of changes in weather, and in this year we had a lot of floods because of the heavy rains, not only inside Pakistan but in the surrounding regions and neighboring countries, and that has brought a lot of damages to human life as well as to the infrastructure and agriculture, and naturally economy is going to be affected as well. I have a very prominent guest with me, experienced guest, former federal minister Amin Aslam, who has been working on the climate change for last many decades. Thank you very much, Mr. Amin, for giving me the time. How you are going to elaborate, initially for our viewers, the challenge of this climate change that the world as well as Pakistan is facing at the moment?
Ji, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you, Waheed Saab, for taking me on this interview. Climate change is really one of the highest risks to the world at the moment. The World Economic Forum recently came out with the World Risk Report, and it cites climate change as the biggest risk to the world. For Pakistan, I think it continues to be not just a crisis or a disaster, but a continuing disaster. It's a continuing crisis that Pakistan will have to face in the coming years. And we have to brace ourselves for that eventuality. The same report that I was referring to from the World Economic Forum raises 5 main areas in which climate is going to impact different countries. And these include floods, these include droughts, these include heat waves, forest fires, and cyclones. But interestingly, or unfortunately, there are only a few countries that face all these 5 impacts. And Pakistan happens to be one of those countries. It's a country which is listed as, in the recent report from the German Watch Vulnerability Index, Pakistan has been cited as the most vulnerable country in the world. We have been in that top 10 list continuously for the last 10 years. So Pakistan faces a huge challenge in coming to terms with this catastrophe, which is really not of our own making. Pakistan is not a big contributor to greenhouse gases, which contribute to making this changing climate. But it happens to be a country, because of its geography, because of its topography, a country which is directly and continuously, as I said, affected by climate change. So it's a big challenge for us, and you've just seen the recent floods that hit Pakistan, and they were one of the super floods that we've seen in the last decade. I think we've had more than 3 super floods. We had one in 2014, and then again in 2022, and then to 2025. And this time, the flood had multiple dimensions to it. In the north of the country, we saw a cloud bursts where usually that does not happen. That more than 400 millimeter of rain falling in just a few hours and overwhelming all the drainage facilities that were there in those areas. And then as the water came down, we saw the tragic unfolding of the disaster all through Pakistan until it hit the Arabian Sea. So billions have been lost in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the agricultural losses that we're going to be facing in the near future. But this is not the end. It is, as I said, a continuing process, and so Pakistan has to really brace up its own governance structure, its own development structure to meet the challenges of this whole catastrophe. There
So
are
what measures do you suggest, as an expert, as a person who has been leading, the team of experts for many years, what you suggest for the government in Pakistan, the federal government or the provincial governments, what measures they can take?
Well, Waheed, if you look at the climate change, you should just look at the floods that we just faced. It was a huge crisis, but it has taught us very clear lessons. The first lesson is that you cannot fight with nature. You cannot fight with nature and hope to win that. We have to make nature an ally. But unfortunately, when we cut our forests, we do deforestation. Then what happens is what we saw in Bannu, where whole mountains come down when the floods come. Similarly, when we start tampering with the floodplains and we start building and constructing and making housing societies in the floodplain areas, which are really river waterways, then again you're fighting with nature. And when nature comes with this fury, it finds its own way, but it can comes at the cost of huge destruction. Similarly, the other lesson that we got from this flood was that we have to change our whole development paradigm. It has to be made what we now call climate resilience. But what is climate resilience? It is really thinking about development from a different lens. It is about thinking about urban planning so that we have cities which are not just concrete structures, but which have capacity to deal with huge deluges of water, what we call sponge cities. They've already started making sponge cities. Similarly, when we talk about this new form of development, we talk about changing the whole way we look at infrastructure development, about roads, about bridges, about housing. All of that has to be made climate compatible so that it is designed in a way that it can withstand all these impacts, because the impacts are not going to go away. Climate change is here to stay. It has gate crashed into Pakistan, and it is not running away, and neither can we run away from it. So we have to live with this reality of climate change, and that means thinking about the whole development paradigm in a new manner. It is about making green infrastructure, about nature-based solutions, about increasing the storage capacity that we have in Pakistan. One of the things that was taught by this flood was that uh, we had this huge deluge of water, many time more than the Tarbela Dam water that we have in storage, or the Mangla Dam storage that we have, and all of that water went through Pakistan and is now going to be flushed into the Arabian Sea. And then in a few months we
And
will be.
sorry to interrupt you. Do you think that in Pakistan the political parties have been to, and naturally the provinces, maybe they have certain reservations or having mistrust on each other. This issue, the issue of dams, have been politicized for decades and decades. I still remember I was in Karachi, having a TV channel in 2003, 4, I remember, or 5. So at that time, President Musharraf, he started a campaign of, for building this Kalabagh Dam, but ultimately, and there were a lot of public rallies and gatherings and addresses by the Sindh government at that time, including General Musharraf himself, but he could not convince the people. So, what is your suggestion to the political parties on this, issue?
Well, I think it is time that we talk about politics in the realm of climate change. When we talk about water storage, Pakistan has one of the lowest water storage percentages in the world. We just store 9% of the water that we get every year. It, Pakistan is a blessed country because we get a lot of water from the glacial melt in the north as well as from the monsoon rains. But we only save 9% of that. Whereas if you just look at the region, the average is 40%. China has got more than 10,000 dams. India has got more than 1,500 dams. But Pakistan has just got these two dams, and we hope to go into the next century with these two dams. I think that's highly inadequate, because it's going to get very clear that even if you look back, go back 6 months, there were two provinces that had declared a drought in Pakistan. KP as well as Punjab were facing a drought situation which was officially announced. So that means that there was no water over there for agriculture, and that will again going to be the situation in a few months down the line. But here we have a country which has got so much water, which passes through its main arteries, but yet we don't manage to save it. So we need to save and store this water. Luckily now the Mangla and both the Villa dams are full, but we need more storage than 9% that we have. And it is time that the political parties see this reality of climate change, not just through their own vested political
I
interests,
think the
but through the.
People's Party have been naturally opposing to it, and there are certain other Sindh political parties, nationalists, which have been opposing. Do you think that there is a need for the federal government to technically, convince these people who are opposing it on the basis of the technical experts should, explain to them that their interest is not going to be affected by building, new dams in Pakistan?
Exactly. I think that is what should be done, and the government has rightfully declared a climate emergency. And but what I fear is that it will just be on paper, and there will be no follow up to this because the crisis has passed Pakistan. But if I mean, the whole point of declaring the climate emergency is that you keep your eye on the ball. You make sure that climate change receives the priority that it deserves, not just in planning, but also in project financing and budgetary allocations, and also in consensus building. And I think one of the first things that the climate emergency team, whatever it is, in Pakistan, there was a team that was declared that should try to build consensus on water storage in Pakistan. And although I am for Kalabag Dam, but it does not have to be just Kalabag Dam. There are other sites available on which work is already continuing. There's Basha Dam, there's Dasu Dam. Those dams should be expedited. The money allocation for those dams in the budget should be prioritized. Uh, in this year, the budget that came, we were told it is going to be a climate budget, but yet we saw a 30% cut in the allocation for Basha Dam. So this should not happen in the future. And the climate emergency team that has been declared by this government should be using that as a priority mechanism to ensure that the crisis that we face, there is also always an opportunity in a crisis. But the opportunity only benefits those who are able to realign themselves with the crisis. And I think we need to do that. It is a reality in Pakistan, which is, as I said, not going to go away.
Pakistan is not responsible, as you said earlier, for whatever is, these the climate changes and the disaster and the destruction that Pakistan has been facing. What about the international? First, tell me kindly about the fossil fuels, that the use of the oil and the gas and the coal by the big economies, like the economy of America, the European economy, the Chinese economy, the Indian economy. So, what's your suggestion? Because there was certain debate going on that by year 2030 or 2035 they are going to, reduce the use of these certain energies, so that the climate change issue, climate disaster issue could be tackled in a proper manner.
Well, that debate is an ongoing debate. It has been going on for the last 2 decades. I've been following all these COP meetings, and the debate is that there are only 8 countries which produce 85% of the emissions, which causes climate change. And most of the countries that are most vulnerable to climate change, like Pakistan, are not big emitters. We are just less than 1% of the global emissions. But that does not solve the issue. It is a debate that is there. We keep on pushing for more climate finance. We keep on pushing to ensure that the countries who are responsible should be made to pay for all these disaster expenses that Pakistan has to face. But unfortunately, that is a very long and a very slow debate. It does not produce immediate results. On the other hand, the impacts that Pakistan faces are immediate. They are here today. We saw them in the last month. We have a bill of more than $2 billion that this flood has brought up. We had a bill of $30 billion that the 2022 flood had brought up. Now, that money has to be, fortunately or unfortunately, brought out of our own kitty. We have to prioritize climate change ourselves. And once we do that, then we can hope for the foreign funding to also come in handy. I mean, just look at the last time there were, promises of about $8 billion for Pakistan in the flood, but only $600 million came from the international. But that does not mean we should stop our own climate action on the ground. We need to realign our own development, and if we do that, then our own development model is good enough to withstand climate change if it is done in a proper manner, if it is done in a climate compatible manner.
What model you are referring to, please?
What I'm referring to is that climate change financing always follows climate action on the ground. So if your country is serious about climate change, we need to start building our green infrastructure. We need to start investing in our forestation. We need to start ensuring that our floodplains are managed properly and there are no housing societies and developments that take place among the floodplains. We need to ensure that Pakistan is at the forefront of developing projects which help our agricultural and our farmers who are facing the brunt of climate change. We are the ones who have to start investing in climate insurance schemes so that when climate change hits our farmers, the farmers are compensated through those climate schemes. All of that has to be done by Pakistan itself. But once we develop that model and we start implementing it on the ground, then there will always be other countries, other funds who will help us. But if we keep on waiting for the funds to come and prioritize and projectize this for us, that is not going to happen. So Pakistan has to take the lead. It has to reshape its own development pathway. It has to prioritize, projectize, and then implement climate action plans on the ground. It is not rocket science to know that we need to stop deforestation to make nature an ally, and it is not rocket science to know that the floodplains are meant for the floods whenever the river swells. So I think we need to understand that, we need to implement, and the projects and the policies are already on the ground. We just need to make the right projects, and I can assure you that when you do that, the foreign funding always follows that because they see commitment from your country. But if you just take out a begging bowl and you say that we are the victims, please help us. We don't have the projects, but we need the money. It's not going to happen.
So, what is the responsibility of the international community? Because recently you have been to China, and there was a conference on the climate change. So, what is the responsibility of the international community, especially the big economies of the world?
You see, China has learned in the wrong way that prevention is always better than cure. They have understood that they took when they were developing, they crossed a lot of environmental red lines. They were big emitters. They were polluting their rivers, but then they have started reversing all of that with a lot of more money than what was required at the start. So they have now learned that model and they are applying it to all the different provinces which are there. I was called by the state government in China because they are developing now a World Coastal Forum, which is going to be looking at Pakistan, because it happens to have a 2,000-kilometer coast, was one of the invitees. But their whole, as I said, development paradigm has shifted. And there are two main lessons from that. One is that prevention, as I said, is better than cure. And the numbers are also out there that every $1 that you spend today in the right manner, in a climate compatible, climate resilient manner on infrastructure development is going to save you $9 in the future when you destroy that infrastructure because of climate change. If you do it right, you avoid that. And there's an old English saying that a stitch in time saves nine,
Design.
and that is exactly what it is. If you do it the right way, you save money, and Pakistan has to realize that. And for that, that whole development financing model of the country has to change. The budgetary priorities have to shift, and we have to understand that when climate change hits, 70% of the loss is due to wrong infrastructure. It is due to having bridges, roads, buildings, and housing developments in the wrong place, in the wrong manner, and built in the wrong manner. If we can change that, then we cut down the losses, and that is the best way to do it. Otherwise, you'll
How
have
to,
to,
yeah,
you know,
sorry.
otherwise you'll have to be forced to do it in the wrong way. And the wrong way is that you destroy all this infrastructure every year because of the floods, but you still build in the same wrong manner, in the same wrong places, and then it gets destroyed again in the next flood. So we need to get out of that rut and change our development paradigm.
How we can sensitize and motivate the public as well, along with the policymakers and the government?
Well, I was very heartened to see today there was a report that the World Bank carries out its own survey of where the people in the country want the World Bank money to go. And today it said that the realization about climate change and the need in the public for for having climate-friendly projects from the World Bank has gone up from 9% to 34% in just 1 year. So the public also sees the benefit. The donors also see the benefit. The opportunity that we have in Pakistan is that the main donors, IMF and the World Bank, are giving us money which is premised on making climate resilient development. And climate resilient development is exactly what I've told you right now, that you trust in nature, you follow nature-based solutions, you don't tamper with your floodplains, you make your agriculture climate compatible by having precision agriculture, by having crop insurance schemes, and you also overall develop in a manner which can absorb the impact of climate change. So the donors are also giving us money because of that. People are now also demanding that. Now it is up to the government, which has also declared a climate emergency, to wake up and make sure that that climate emergency is not just on paper, but it happens to follow the process and make sure that we lead towards climate resilient development.
Since you have been part of the policy making, the implementation part as well, how far the funds that come for climate, addressing the climate change issues inside Pakistan from the donors and from maybe individual countries, do you think that they are directed to the actual, the issues or the actual projects that for which the money is being collected or brought inside Pakistan?
That is the tough part about it, and that is where the sex appeal of large projects goes away, and that is in implementing it properly. As I said, when the opportunity is that we have funding available from the IMF and the World Bank. IMF $1.2 billion has come in climate resilient financing. But the tough part is that it is us who have to prioritize it and make the right projects. And the toughest part is then to implement it with transparency and make sure you can properly monitor it on the ground. And
what was your experience with the bureaucracy and the attached departments which were implementing all these policies and spending the money?
My own experience is that if you have the political will and if you can display zero tolerance for corruption, it can always happen. We designed the Billion Tree project in Pakistan, which was one of the most transparent projects in Pakistan. It started in KP province with a budgetary allocation of 22 billion rupees, and then it ended at 14 billion rupees. So there were 8 billion that was saved in that project from what was allocated to it. I don't think there's any other project public sector development.
There was certain opposition to the project as well because of the mismanagement of the funds. Do you agree with that?
The opposition was always, it was all acquisition based on performance. The opposition could not bear with the performance of the project. The performance of the project was validated not by me or you or the opposition or the Pakistan government, but by international agencies. It was the only project in Pakistan which was given public sector financing, but which had a third party independent monitoring and auditing system. And that was WWF, IUCN, and FAO. All three are international organizations. And it came out with its report in 2023 when our government had already finished. And it gave a thumbs up report to the project. It said that whatever plantations were done, they were 80% survival rate after 3 years. And they were monitoring it on the ground. So I think it was a success story, not just for Pakistan, but also for the whole world. It was a project which happened because there was a lot of political commitment, and then there was a commitment to implement the project in the right and transparent manner. And as I said, it got validated at the international level. Pakistan got declared as a nature champion by United Nations Environmental Program. And it was carving a new way. The other projects that were included were the Living Indus project, Recharge Pakistan project. That all happened during that tenure. And again, as I said, the focus of that government was that we need to make nature an ally in development, not our adversary. We cannot fight with nature. So we need to make it an ally by investing in nature-based solutions. And those are the best ways of development because they protect nature and they use nature to actually harness and the absorb the impact of climate change in the best manner possible. So I think that is what needs to be continued. Pakistan has all the potential, and as I said, it has the financing also. It just needs political commitment and continuity to make it happen on the ground.
Final question, at the federal level and as well as at the provincial levels, do you think that the climate change ministries or the departments, they do have adequate, technical support as well as the know-how, the people who are supervising all these climate change projects?
Well, my own experience is that the know-how and the ability is always there, but it has to be motivated. It has to be motivated to work, and it only gets motivated when they see that you're up there and it has to come down from the top, from the Prime Minister's office down to the Minister's office, and then go down to the ground. If they see your commitment is to getting the project done, then the capacity always becomes available. But if you are not committed yourself and you just want to have a good time in the ministry, then the bureaucrats also have a good time, and the projects don't happen. There's no implementation on the ground. Let me say over here also that we also have this do nothing option, that Pakistan does not do anything and we wait for the next crisis to happen. There is a cost attached to it now, and the World Bank has come out with the figures that if you do nothing, then you will be facing 8 to 18% losses in your GDP. And that's a huge, huge number. 8 to 18% of your GDP can get shaved off because of climate losses if you do nothing. So I think that is what the government has to realize, that don't take the do nothing option, but do something, and do something with credibility and transparency. It is not rocket science. We know what needs to be done. Everybody knows what needs to be done, and especially this flood has shown us the way, what are the answers and what needs to be done on the ground. But we need political commitment. Luckily, as I said, the climate emergency that was declared shows some sort of political commitment, but it needs to be followed up with a clear implementation pathway, with projects, with transparent implementation on the ground, and with making sure that what you say actually happens. It's not about climate change is not about just talking. We need to walk the talk also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amin Aslam, former federal minister, who has spent a lot of time, many years in guiding the federal government and the various agencies inside Pakistan on this very important, pressing issue, which is affecting, in fact, Pakistan economy. Thank you very much for joining.